Whether you're a parent, friend, or neighbour, it's up to all of us to keep children safe. Find out more about how you can play your part. Search online for Listen Up, Speak Up.
Revive FM
94.0 on the radio,
on your mobile,
and online.
Hello, good evening to the Friends of Queen's Market Spot. So you're tuned into Revive FM 94.0. We're the heart of Newham Community Beats. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment on our YouTube page, Revive FM UK, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, under the same name. My name is Sam.
Comments on Facebook as well.
Oh, we're supposed to be on all of them, so really we should be looking all over the place. I know that sometimes the links get broken, but yeah, we're on it all. So I think we need to be supporting this radio station because they are putting our voice out there. They're giving us the space and investing a lot of time in us, right, to put our viewpoint out there. Right, who have we got today again? Stan?
Oh yes, we've got Stan. Yeah, that's me. Same as last time. Sukhdev.
Pauline. And Sukhdev has come back just to sort of
by invitation.
By invitation. Well, he did try to bang on the door, but anyway.
He loves it. He loves it.
But the thing is, it was a lot that was said last week, and I think that we need to address some of the things. So yeah, let's without too much hesitation, let's sort of get into this now. Is there anything that you guys want to say before we start? No, good.
No, hold on. Eid Mubarak to everyone who celebrated.
Absolutely, Eid Mubarak. Wonderful. Pauline, could you do the honorary update, please?
Yes. And of course, happy Vaisakhi.
Vaisakhi. Thank you very much.
Yes, update. Right now, if you go to Queen's Market, as you know, next to Upton Park Station, and look at the front of it, you'll see that there are two boards at the beginning, great big you could say triumphal arches at the front of the market. And they say Queen's Market. One has got the date 1904, which is when the market's moved to roundabout where it is. Mm-hmm. So hopefully the front of the market is going to be finished soon. We've got those wooden boards up. Behind them, we've got roofs replacing the canopies.
Pauline, have we been given a date for the completion of the works?
The date was the end of April, and that's not going to happen. But it looks as if things are moving on.
That's a typical construction sort of philosophy. We'll give you a hopeful date. Yeah. We'll give you a tide me over date until we have another.
It's moving on very well because there was a problem over the crane. There was a pause. There was a total pause in the building. I don't know if we covered it last meeting when there was speculation that the firm that was doing it had gone broke and Newham Council didn't know what to do, which would be rubbish because they would have commissioned them. Anyway, that was sorted. Then some bright spark wanted to bring in the cranes just before Eid, and the trader said, no way. I think we mentioned this last time.
We did.
Anyway, the work is going on, so that is really good.
So has any cranes been there at the front of the market?
They came in perfect, actually. They came in the Monday after Eid when everyone was home celebrating. Yeah. So
it was quiet.
And they haven't, there hasn't been too much. Well, there's been the normal disruption because there's been disruption all the time, the building works going on, but not more disruption than normal, so that was good.
Because we've had that for quite a few months now, haven't we?
Oh, God. Over a year, I checked with one of the traders. I mean, the traders have had to put up with so much, you know. But the shoppers keep on coming.
Yeah.
Although footfall was down, according to traders' estimate. But you wouldn't think it, you go there on a Saturday or go there just before Eid. I'm sure go there before the Easter Saturday. You'll find it heaving. Yeah, so Eid was good. You know, they had henna, which of course packed people in because it was free henna, and it's you know really nicely done. Of course, only the best for Queen's Market.
Absolutely.
The traders paid for it, and they were charging £10 on Green Street, so there was good celebrations there.
Now, when you said that we had henna in the market, elaborate on that.
I'm sorry, yeah. This was to
Mendy.
celebrate Eid on the 5th of, yes, Mendy. You're quite right. Thank you for the
It's
correction.
all right. They're both right.
Yes, to celebrate Eid, the artists were there drawing kind of patterns in henna Mendy on the palms of ladies' hands.
Yeah.
It's really artistic.
Was
and
that done while the market was running? Was it done at the back of the market, front of the market?
To be honest, I'm not quite sure where, but the determined ladies all found it, and it was paid for by the traders.
Oh, fantastic.
So it was a
Because
great celebration.
I mean, they've done other events.
Easter they'll be celebrating Easter this Saturday coming. From 11 to 4. There will be an Easter cake. That's important. Bouncy castle for the kids. A DJ. So
Fantastic.
turn up and see what
At least the space has been used, and that's important. It's been used for other things, you know, as well as the most important thing, which is food and nutrition things. But it's been used for social issues as well.
And it's been left to the traders and friends of Queen's Market before to do all this Easter stuff. I don't think it would have happened without the community.
Absolutely.
Because the council doesn't seem to be celebrating in other spaces.
Just to expand on that, do you think we've had, we get these sort of events, maybe I think a couple of times a year. What I've noticed over the years that a lot of space has been taken up on the pavements, you know, where they do henna and Mendy and, you know, other things like whatever they do. Wouldn't that be best done in the market? You know, wouldn't that not be better use of that space when the market's not there? Plus, it will keep, you know, any what I called litter and rubbish and everything, kept it to a small area, which is easily maintained and easily contained and, you know, and cleared up a lot quicker. I mean, you know, lot less disruption, I would say. Do you know? So because there are two sites, I mean, there's been people that have been mentioning it on the Nextdoor app and other apps and everything else like that. You know, there are spaces in Green Street that can accommodate these sort of events. You know, you've got the car park, you know, there's a car park that's in Green Street that could cope with some of that. You've got the Queen's Market, which is a massive, you know, wonderful covered space that could cope with that. So if we had inclement weather, that could still carry on. It wouldn't spoil the actual event at all. But also, it would actually free up the pavement, you know, for people to just walk around and peruse around, you know, which will make it a much more inviting sort of event. Because I've seen it over the years where it's congested, it has got congested, and there's a lot of negativity that sort of come out of it. And so I think maybe, right, you know, somebody should look into that and try to, you know, use that market space, you know, as well afterwards. And that's one way of getting people into that space, you know.
That's pretty revolutionary. You're thinking that the council would let people celebrate Eid in the market?
Well, I'm not
Mendy and all that.
Well, I didn't say the council. I didn't say the council. The community can do that. You know, and all they have to do is talk to the management. And if the management are of any sense and sensibility, they should try to accommodate. If not, they should just go and do it.
I think the community's come up with ideas over the years for how to use the space, but where the council's concerned, it fell on deaf ears. I don't think they really like community events that they're not in control of.
This is what I'm trying to say. They could feel what we feel when we feel, you know, we're not getting listened to and we don't have a certain sense of control and participation. At least they should have an ounce of what we've been going through for X amount of years. So I do believe that we should own that space. The community should own that space. Maybe it's something I should be starting to push and put a big poster up, go to the Queen's Market. Maybe the council should start reconsidering their position on how they represent the community, and especially on religious
Well, it wouldn't
events.
cost, for the council, it wouldn't cost them anything if they let us use the market space to have an Eid celebration.
Well,
We'd say, we'll clean up as well afterwards.
Using the space, though, would cost the council something, because they wouldn't be able to argue, here's this great vacant space that's only used half the week for the market. We could use it by building luxury flats that'll be there round the clock.
Well, this
See,
is-
once they use the space for the community, that argument dies in the water.
Well, exactly, and that's why I think we should be owning this space. We should be taking it over, despite what the council says. All we need is some people with a bit backbone in the community to say, you know what, we're going to go in there, and we're going to go in there. We're going to occupy the car park. We're going to do it all in there. We're going to keep our streets free and let so people can walk. Business is good while people are moving.
Well, the market shuts at 6 o'clock, so after 6 o'clock, you could have an Eid event.
You can have a wonderful event there, absolutely wonderful event there. You can put tables out there, you can do food from there, you can do whatever you want, and people will get comfortable as well coming in and out of that space. But maybe there's something that we could start, get some revolutionaries out there somewhere. That's a thought. Okay, from last week, hold on, let me just say, okay. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to introduce a few things from last week as well. Before I do that,
you go there, are they spoiling Pauline? I've not seen henna on her hand, but they're laying on a party as well with the DJ for you, Pauline.
it's true,
DJ.
I think you could do with a henna tattoo across the face. Really.
Well,
You could come in as a warrior, with all henna all over you. I think that might be a nice picture right next time. We should think about it. But yeah, that's a good idea.
And also kind of 1904, that was when the market was moved from the street, wasn't it?
you're
Into-
right.
yeah.
You're right. It's
So it's-
Queen's Road.
So
Yeah,
it's been there a lot longer if we looked at it as a street market before.
absolutely.
Because it was on Green Street and they moved it onto Queen's Road.
Yeah, and back in the day when it was there, Green Street was called Gypsy Lane
Gypsy Lane.
because it was
Wow.
a travelling
Gypsy
community
Yeah.
that kept it going.
Well, the stalls, I remember the stalls used to be down in Harold Road, just over there. There used to be about 5 or 6 stalls down there.
Used to spill over around.
And do you know when it goes on the other side of the station, it should go down. There should be a couple of stalls down that way, and you should go a bit further up. There should be a couple of stalls that way, and then they started receding back, and the only ones that were left went into Harold Road. Then it went closer to the edge of the road, and that was it. They disappeared. I don't know whether they moved in or they just packed up, but that's how it went. Question I want to ask is that we had a petition from the traders. I mean, in the time of cost of living, a petition went out, and the petition was to actually suspend or freeze any sort of rise in pitch rates and rents.
Maybe even a rebate for all the disruption.
Maybe even a rebate, because it's been going on for a year.
Yeah, at
Or
least.
plus.
Yeah, at least.
Has anything come off that? I mean, was the petition presented? Has any response come from that petition?
The petition definitely went in. Was there a response? Do you know? I don't know. I mean, and it takes two to tango. So
does.
the traders haven't asked us, but we haven't asked them.
Yeah.
And we've got a good relation with the traders union.
Absolutely.
But that's a point that we must chase up. And I'll ask next time I'm in the market, definitely.
Well, because there's been a massive sort of loss of trade for a lot of them. I think, as I was reading some of the stuff, the record is that it's been about 30 to 40% drop in footfall through the market because of all that holding that's been up there
Yeah.
and all that work in the front. I mean, that in itself is just not good if you're going to try to create, local wealth. And if we're talking about generating wealth, we're just going in the wrong direction. I have no idea the concept of what the council regards as wealth building. and entrepreneurship. I have no idea, especially when we've got traders that have been struggling with netting. With
Well, you know when they first started that work, and they demolished the stalls at the front, and the boarding was up. It was so bad that the traders employed a man with a megaphone and placards to stand at the front and say, "The market is open. It just looks closed.
I remember seeing
the market is open. The shops are open.
It's one
Please
way to
come
get, one way to get past kind of digital exclusion, a sandwich board and a megaphone.
But that's how it was. It was absolutely a sandwich board.
Because the market looked closed.
After that, they put big notices up
Yeah.
on the hoarding to say it's all open.
Right, okay. From last week, my interest is in engagement. And what the word came up was digital exclusion. I just need to elaborate more on that. I mean, when we talk about digital exclusion, are we just talking about, elderly people? That,
No. Everyone.
Who are we talking about? I mean, because I find it difficult to access things, and with a certain amount of intelligence, I think I could get a negotiate. But even then, I have a safety net, and it's called a nephew. So I tend to call him and ask him, how to get through this maze of requests that they put up in the screen. So how do we digitally engage? I mean, how do they make it better for people to engage, right, with the council, with the policies that that they're putting out there? Because I'm finding that is a big issue, because they tried this digital issue with the repair side of the council, and that didn't work. Then they brought it back and said, we're going to do face-to-face. So we know it doesn't work. So because people were just at the end of their tether with leaky roofs and plumbing that weren't working. I mean, I went to the council meeting, and one of the councillors said that we're going to bring it back so people could talk to somebody. So we already had a system that worked, the face-to-face. They included digital, which I found out later on was more of a slowing down process, so that the repairs were done a lot slower. But then they started to go back in there saying that we're going to start doing face-to-face meetings, which showed that there was a failure in it, and they treated it as if it was a success, but it was a failure. So how do we deal with that? How do we get this information to the council? It's just not working.
They know, because when they want something from us, they send out letters. When you're behind with your council tax, you get great big red letters. They don't just send emails. So they don't send emails.
The threats of court action and bailiffs.
Yeah, they know the emails may bounce back or not be open. So we just have to tell them, don't be so two-faced. When you want something, you put notices, or you tell people, you get your enforcement guys to tell people. Don't say when we want something, we've got to jump through hoops and go online, because a lot of us can't.
So that means a proportion of, but how do they deal with it when they want people to vote for them?
When you're saying they, can you be clear on who they are?
They, in the sense, the establishment, the council, the governance.
The establishment, the council's just one aspect of it. I mean, who are these they?
Well, whoever wants whatever it is they want, whether it's the voting or whether it's, for any.
So it includes political parties, local councils.
It includes everybody.
Central government.
Well, I don't really want
electricity companies.
GLA.
Well, we could go all that way because they are all digitally, I get things emails sent to me all the time by energy companies and water boards and what have you. But when you're dealing with local issues, which are right there in front of you, we need a proper form of communication. We've got to involve everybody in there. We can't just. It's like I went to a meeting and I said, it was a police meeting. I said, do you think 35 people in a room, and that 35 is 10 of them are of police officers, or 20 of them police officers and councillors? Do you think that's reflective of 250,000 and growing every day type of policy? And they said yes. And I realised that I'm in the wrong world. I'm in the wrong room talking to the wrong person. That's a chief inspector as well.
And just a kind of a point of digital exclusion. It's not a kind of a term that's new or recent, and it's been going on for a while, and so therefore it's known. But to say that the whole thing has failed would also be misrepresenting, because in some aspects it has worked for some people. But council is about kind of reaching everybody, all of your community and communities. And that requires kind of some kind of nuanced understanding and thought on this. And yes, if you want kind of participative democracy, it's hard work. And sometimes the systems that you want everybody to kind of adopt may not work. But when they don't work, try and find out what does work. And Pauline often kind of says in many of your meetings that I still favour old-fashioned kind of big meetings. And yes, they have their kind of place. But what is the issue of kind of digital exclusion is we don't actually know the true extent of it. And Pauline, just before we went on air, said, how long are you going to rely on young nephews and nieces and sons and daughters? Are you eventually going to turn around and say,
grandchildren,
always moaning, haven't you learnt? The reaches a kind of a point. But I don't think we actually know, because I don't think I've been excluded. But that's partly because I grew up with the kind of the technology that's there, and also how it's been kind of channeling me. You made an interesting point about kind of digital inclusion on repairs. I've never heard that before, but where repairs, you're actually using the system as a rationing device. And that's something kind of quite powerful. And whether that has actually happened, whether it has or it hasn't, the perception then remains to address.
Sorry, Connie.
No, that's a really good point. Because if you've got pen and paper, you could write whatever you like. Now, once you're on that computer typing in, sometimes it'll only let you say yes or no. And even if there's a space to put your comments, it cuts off after 250 words or 250 characters. So it does limit even the digitally sussed as to what they can say. But that's I suppose another issue. I suppose that's me moaning about the computers again.
Well, but Pauline, it kind of connects with your kind of campaign too, in terms of kind of consultation.
Yes.
If I recall correctly, you also handed in the 6,000 signature petition,
over 6,000,
which hasn't found its way anywhere back to you in terms of what the outcome was. And you've never raised that in any of your programs.
No.
You know what's happened to it?
Well,
or was the email too difficult to write to you?
What we did get was a sort of really stupid reply.
they never really acknowledged it.
They sort of...
I think they
That's consultation.
They gave a kind of... They got one person in the council to do a point-by-point refutation, saying, you've asked for this, well, we're looking at it, you've asked for that, we can't do it, you've asked for this, and we've done it. But that doesn't make sense to send one email to the Friends of Queen's Market email account when that petition was signed by 6,000 people. You need to go out and talk to all of them, don't try and in any case, it was just aimed at saying what you've asked for is rubbish. So
They should publicly acknowledge that petition, that over 6,000 people are saying, look, we don't want the market demolished, we want it improved, we love the market is essential.
I think what it was also, there was a point where I think they changed the questioning. They said it didn't address questioning. That questioning detracted from really what we were trying to sort of say, but it felt from my point of view, they were just trying to push the goalpost further.
Yes, so they could ignore it.
so they could ignore it. And that was the main issue about this. They changed the questioning to suit the actual petition. We knew what we was questioning and we knew what we put a petition for, but they changed it to suit, so it made an irrelevance of that. Now, when we talk about petitions, and you talk about...
But, you know, the way the council are treating that petition and the people who signed it is they're saying, look, we're putting two fingers up. We don't respect what you're saying. And they should acknowledge that because, you know, over 6,000 people do understand what's going on with the market and they've put their views forward. Yeah. If they really represent us and care about what we've got to say, you know, they love talking about consultations. They say, okay, you said this, we accept it. That over 6,000 of you want the market to stay, you don't want it demolished, you want it improved, but they've never done that.
See, this takes me to a point where
Perhaps it wasn't online.
maybe the digital inclusion weren't there.
We had mostly, it was signed by people who came up to our store, but it was online too. And I think
Yeah, we did online.
Yeah.
So you did you introduced a hybrid system.
Yes.
It was a hybrid.
We didn't know it was called that at the time, or I didn't anyway.
But yeah, I mean, you know, see, what the thing is, we had a petition, we went to a committee meeting, the council committee meeting, it was presented by the Greens.
Yeah.
And fantastic.
Well, we should say that the two Green councillors and is it 3 independent councillors are supporting us and were supporting us then.
Yeah.
And they formally kind of handed the petition in.
Yeah.
Because the petition can't be handed in by a commoner.
No.
It's got to be handed in by a councillor. Any petition to the council.
We need to put
Or
an
a
end
silver salver.
So it's not only digital exclusion then, it's going to people exclusion.
Yes,
Class
makes
exclusion.
nonsense.
I'm sure there's good reasons why that exists.
Really?
Absolutely.
No, I don't know. It's just a
I'm
phrase.
waiting on that, be a quiet pin drop there. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, that gave us, at that committee, it gave us, from last week's chat, it gave us a speaking, but it didn't give us an interactive participatory part of it. It gave us, we voiced it, and we gave them an invitation, and that was it. It was listened to, and that was it. So I don't believe the system works because they do give us, as you said before last time, they give us a speaking part, but that's where it stops, you know. And they give us not just a speaking part, they also give us what is their belief of what participation is. Before anybody says, then we're going to have a break and then we're going to come back.
Break time.
Okay.
or an Islamic verdict on any other issue. The Muslim Sharia Council is at your service. We provide official certification, and our experienced and highly qualified imams are available to provide you with guidance when needed. MQI London is based at 292 to 296 Romford Road, Forest Gate. We are open from Monday to Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. or alternatively, call us now on 0208 257 1786.
Revive FM.
94.0. On the radio
On your mobile.
and online.
We'll go back to the roof when everything else is.
Welcome back to.
We're back.
Welcome back. Right, we're just going to get straight back into it. Petitions. Would you like to take that on? What you said in the break. You know, we forwarded petition. Worked pretty hard, as you know yourself, right? How hard we worked to prepare that. We've done street pitch, you know, stalls out there and getting petitions. Went on for months and months and months.
Yeah.
You know, and we got a lot of people that came in and voiced their opinion. So we people that live there, people that live here, people that, you know, go through the market, you know, people that weren't, you know, that lived there and moved away, but yet came visiting and said that it's our focal point, it's our anchorage, we people here. So that petition was quite close to them. It was an emotional thing for that petition, just for them to leave an address. If they check the addresses out, they won't find the addresses all local addresses.
No.
You know, so this anchorage went out far because they were here, they lived it, they used it, they shopped there, you know, they bought the food there, they communicated in there, they shared the space with, you know, with their friends and family, and they moved out. But they came back like some homing pigeons.
Yeah.
They came back and they met, you know, each other.
They come back, shop at the market, eat fish and chips,
To
and they go home.
To them, that's social value, you know, and it's something that difficult to put a value on a social value, you know. How do you do that? But yet they came there, they spent money, and they met people, and they went, you know, shopping there. So is that petition, was that petition, you know, I'm hoping that petition will do something. I'm hoping that petition may resonate with the council. I'm hoping we can resurrect something from that petition.
Okay. I should be clear that while I received the emails of Friends of Queen's Market, I've never been active with you, so
No.
but I am familiar with the Queen's Market, and I regularly speak to you guys about what's going on.
Yeah.
In terms of kind of petition, you raise a kind of a really, I think, important point. What place does your petition or a petition have in our kind of democracy? Because we're told so much to be participative. And when a 6,000 signature petition can be dismissed with a series of kind of red or green lights, it tells you something about kind of that all the power does not reside in the locality. It resides with the people. And they're often not just politicians, they're often officers are often licensed. And I understand that kind of, you know, officers' lives are kind of really difficult because on one side they've got the politician who wants one thing, and the other they've got faced with the kind of community who often want another. You would have liked to have thought that there would have been some kind of merging of opinions here, or some kind of, you know, as I said to you last week, people will agree to a decision that previously they didn't agree to if they've had a speaking part and a listening part and an engaging part in the conversation. And often through those conversations, good decisions are made, ones that make things kind of work. I mean, you've just had a kind of a discussion about kind of using the space, but rather than go down that route, it's this 6,000 plus signature petition that seems to have just disappeared, has been dealt with one email and is dismissive. I think that should be a cause of concern, and it should be a cause of concern for the councillors to say, look, you may not like the people who are involved in this. You may think that kind of, you know, they make your life difficult. But if democracy is to work, you have to engage people. Yes.
You have
And
to,
sometimes
yeah.
it's easier to engage them when you're in opposition and rather than when you're in power. But either way, if you want democracy to work, you have to engage people. If you can ignore 6,000 signature petition, there is a problem at the very heart of this democracy.
Yeah, 100%. And I always said that there is a massive problem. Just on that, I mean, we got a little sort of, I don't know, a sort of statement, and it was put through our platform. Now, whether it has validity, I don't know, because it's not been signed by it, or whether but it talks about the public right to speak, and this is in Hackney. And what they're saying is that they've halved the amount of petition they can hear. So somebody's actually trying to now really actually trying to break down the sort of fabric of what our democracy is. And they're starting at a low level.
It was meant to be.
Yeah. So they're saying things like, well, narrowing the ways residents can submit a petition and are limiting the time opposition groups have to raise issues for debate. They've also reduced the number of motions and councillors can propose in full council to one per meeting. Powers lie with the unelected officers to block issues from even making it onto the agenda. Now that is come from, I'm not too sure, and I'm not going to, hold it to the screen, but I'll find out whether that has validity when I speak to people from Hackney. But this is the stuff that should not be going out on any platform in a democratic country that actually pushes democracy on just about any other country around the world, whether they want it or not. So I have a problem with this, the scrutiny business. We don't have any. Robin Wales actually evaded scrutiny because I didn't think he allowed it for some time. We have our own mayor at the present moment that wouldn't have scrutiny. So how do we even get anywhere close to what we believe should be a democratic process of communication, with our petitions, with our voice,
My understanding is that when councillors raise an issue, when we ask a councillor to take this up, they can't just go to the officer or the department.
No.
They've got to go through a nominated officer. It's like they're in a queue.
Yeah.
And then a reply comes back via the one nominated officer. And I'm not sure if the reply that they get has a name at the bottom of it. I mean, these are things we ought to ask our councillors, how does it work? Is this
Well, I doubt
democracy at all?
Pauline, I doubt you're going to get any response from the council. I asked them many things, and they would not answer me. They would smile at me and walk away.
Our opposition councillors will tell us the answer to that one, because they're probably madly frustrated.
Well, maybe I'll ask our opposition councillors, what are you doing about addressing this?
I think,
No, what they can do about first of all how it works. Then we think about
what about your own local councillors being able to kind of reply to you, wherever you live, to ask that question of how does it work?
Well, I sent an email out to the whip, and I asked him that I would like a copy of the Constitution, starting from our lowly suffering councillors.
Constitution of New?
Of
council.
Of local government.
Okay.
And how to address it, how to move forward communication, and if there isn't, is there a recourse? I've not had that yet, and yet it's my right to get it. They should provide it. As a democracy, they should provide it, because that's the guideline.
We don't want to digitally exclude you, but is it online?
No, I can't find it online, and so that's where I most probably am digitally excluded myself somehow. Knowledge is not my
But
greatest thing.
I can't comment about kind of.
I want it
Yes.
already packaged in a book,
Yeah.
so I can sit there in a bus.
Yeah, and why not? I mean, after all, it's representative democracy.
Yeah.
It's almost like if we're looking at it, it's I can't remember the Prime Minister used the word guided democracy, right?
This seems to be terminology for democracy, no matter what.
Right. But if you're looking at kind of engagement, this isn't unusual. This is happening in many walks of your own life. Part of the kind of the frustration is it's not just the council, and it just appears to be the council is the punching bag currently on this. It's happening in broad swathes of our kind of lives. I mean, how many petitions have been kind of handed in and just ignored? If you're looking at popular opinion, how much of it is actually ignored? As though the kind of the voting public, the people who put these people in power, their opinions no longer matter when they come together as a mass. It's a point of kind of concern where you're trying to, if the point you're making, the kind of Hackney is, I don't know enough about it, but if it's true, the first thing to find out is, how have we reached this stage? I mean, first of all, if it's true, but how have we reached this stage? And also, let's not kind of just be kind of knocking that. Part of our kind of exercise and our job is to perhaps propose an alternative too.
Yeah. Propose an alternative. But the thing is, where do you start with an alternative? Do you either start with an alternative engaging with people, or do you start, should our democracy, which is a constant changing sort of format, should we not be engaging our local residents, our public, into shaping our democracy that works well for the people and by the people?
Well, how much kind of consultation has there been? I mean, for example, before we've reached this kind of point, how often does local democracy reach out to you?
Well,
yeah, but I mean, the alternative is, look, campaigns, we're talking big campaigns, have been successful.
I agree with that.
Now, I would say it's the democracy of the street that won in many of those cases. I mean, a lot of it has been digital. I'm not being too old-fashioned. When there's been a real social media campaign, from the grassroots, things have changed, things have been done. I mean, if you remember, I was just thinking they were proposing to build a great big black blob in Stratford that would shut out the sun and the daylight.
Oh, you mean that sphere thing?
Yeah. And it
that was a big fight.
Only the public outcry that got that reversed. So, I think you're asking a really good question. How can we make the council and that work as a functioning democracy? But there's, because they don't like the democracy of the street, they say you should go through us, But how can we when they don't? It goes back to the democracy of the street. And of course, the bottom line is they're scared of riots. But I mean, to be honest, I don't see people rioting about the market, but they're always a bit nervous when public protest reaches a certain point,
They do, and especially when it does hit the sort of social media system, because that does play a big part in it now. And that's across the world. We're seeing public opinions change. We've seen governments swayed. We've seen a lot happening. Whether that's social inclusion, like digital inclusion, I have no idea. But all I know, that is the social media world, right, does seem to work. I mean, that's a topic in itself, but it does work, and it has moved developments. It's actually virtually changed governments in certain places. So it has a massive role to play, and I think the so-called elitists, right, just don't know how to handle that at the moment. But what we are seeing is a lot of counters. They're trying to block it. Even demonstrations, they're putting massive restrictions, draconian restrictions on it, where they're just digitizing people's faces everywhere. We've got surveillance coming out of that yin yang, right, where they're just trying to take people off the street, they're kettling off, discouraging people. I mean, this is not a democracy. I mean, this reminds me of when the coal miners, right, came on strike. We'll negotiate, but we'll negotiate you in the field.
With a truncheon and a horse. Charging up.
I mean, is that how it's done? So this is how I see things. I don't see protests on the street. I think protests on the street does work. I believe in it. I really do. And I believe the social media stuff. But I just don't. I just think it's just hitting the wall. They just don't care. And at what point do we make them care? How do we make them care? How do we make them listen? We've got councillors, we've got our council that use this social media, they use this platform, they use this radio to actually put out what their view is. But yet we use the same space, this actual space, to provide a counter to it. The thing is, how do we then translate that to other people? How do we translate that to people out there? How do we translate that to the population out there? That if we don't take back some power, some control, we're giving it away wholesale. And our next generation to come, will not forgive anybody for giving up that much power to the council. Forget national, I'm talking about council, I'm talking about local governance. And I've always moaned about for the last 30 odd years, and local governance need to be working with the public, the people who elected them. The rich don't care about voting. It's one vote. They don't care about vote. It's the poor and the working class that need to be dealing with it. And that's my issue. So unless we're done on that, we're going to leave that to rest, unless you want to add anything, Sue.
No. I mean, it's we could carry on all day on this, right? Because the fault lines are deep and they've been long running. Let's move on.
But scrutiny of the council is very important.
Yes, and let's be hopeful. If you knock on every door, sometimes one flies open. In the council, outside the council, on the street, on social media, sometimes it surprises you,
Well, we could only hope that these independents and these Greens gain more ground. Because what we have there is not working for us. It's not working for the people. And it's just not Newark, it's in other boroughs. I mean, I went to, over the weekend, I went to, as you know, I went to White City on the Shepherd's Bush Market event. And it was exactly the same. They're going for the same stresses where we've had, we've had a developer do, one developer goes in and that developer sells up to another developer. And they're facing the same problems as we're facing. And they're not listened to. They've had their petitions as well. So if it's happening here, it's happening in Shepherd's Bush, it's happening in East London, West London, North, South, it's all over the place.
So what's the latest in Shepherd's Bush Market?
Well, I think they're going to have a sort of demo outside the market. I mean, you is determined who are the new developers, and they want to put, expensive flats. But mainly, really, their income is going to come from students, and they want to put laboratories in there as well. But they want to use the market, from what I gather, as more of a road, an access into the place, maybe, and then use the arches as rent them off. But they're
going to buy the arches off TfL.
Well, they must probably lease it from
rail, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they must probably lease all that space from them and buy the ground next to it. You understand? So I mean, even the arches. I mean, some of the rents from them, right? I've got about £25,000-30,000 a year. But that's what they are local. Now, I don't know how that's addressing the housing issue.
It's not.
And that's the thing. I don't think now that councils and governments actually give a damn. I don't even think they believe it themselves anymore about housing, because they know they can't keep peddling this housing lie, because we've all seen through it. Either the digitally aware or the undigitally aware, but they've seen through all the fog of lies, and they've seen through it. So how it's just not going to work. So this language that's been put out there, this is another thing I've seen, through this lived experiences, this language that's adopted, this we, this us, this language that sort of propagandizes certain sort of viewpoint to try to turn it into some sort of collective that we should all agree on what? A predetermined decision. But I see this language, it's there, and I don't feel I'm the only one seeing it.
Well, you're not actually, because that kind of indifference and the cynicism doesn't come out of a void. It comes out of a kind of a place where people feel that they are being ignored. And when you talk about like regen and all these kind of buzzwords, the bizarre story I heard today was that Network Rail, that is owned by the state, right, directly responsible, the ministry is directly responsible for that, paid £1 million to lobbyists to lobby the government, its own owner. I just think, crikey, if you're looking for kind of an example of how bad things have become, that's probably it.
That is it. I mean, that takes that word commoditizing to a new level. It was a councillor that said it. You know, what councils and the government work is principle that everything is a commodity. So my view is, if land and markets and all the, you know, is a commodity, then that means my house is a commodity. They could be coming for that next. So I could be working 30 years, carry the wounds, right, and the pains of trying to get a roof over my head, to think that I've got security, but they could compulsory purchase it whenever they like and put a 90 whatever flats, you know, for students, because the revenue from foreign students is quite high.
Two things on this. I mean, on the Shepherd's Bush market, what little they do know is that the university sector is actually in a bit of a mess, simply because overseas student numbers are declining. And it seems an odd kind of thing to be pursuing that. And second is, you made a very kind of pertinent and really important point. How's this going to fix the local housing problem? Right? Housing is often being used as like, we're doing this for some kind of greater good.
Yeah.
Your campaign is largely around things other than just housing. And Queens, even if you put the biggest tower blocks on Queen's Market, and when we got rid of Queen's Market, it's not going to solve the housing crisis in Newham. And as long as I have lived, there's always been a housing kind of crisis on this. It's the fault lines run much deeper than this, and we're not going to fix it by going after Queen's Market. But there is kind of other things that the council could be doing. And when I say kind of council, I'm talking about kind of central government and local government here. Often, central government is often, they call it devolved, and they say, like, you know, shoveled off the difficult stuff onto the local councils. Here, the housing kind of crisis is an odd thing. Like I said 2 weeks ago, we're the wealthiest, one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Over half of that wealth is based around kind of property, yet we're talking about homelessness and a housing crisis. There is something wrong in just that kind of statement in itself. And isn't it kind of the point to kind of stop and say, well, hang on a minute, right? Where has this property inflation taken us? It's actually led to kind of what would be, I mean, some would call it kind of intergenerational transfer of wealth. Yeah. It's gone from the young to the old, right? And now if you're lucky enough to have kind of parents who had kind of, you know, DB pension schemes and bought their own property, then, I mean, not that you wish your parents to die, but like, you know, you will be getting a tidy sum from it.
Knock on the door.
Right. But what about those who haven't had that good fortune? What about them? We're just kind of postponing kind of the crisis that's coming ahead of us.
We'll just ignore it.
But on kind of housing, ask yourself, why is it over a lifetime, those who rent will pay more for their housing than most people who buy their housing? Right? That's a matter of kind of fact. And why do we have to have market rents when you've actually looked at historical cost of building the place? Right? And you can have rents set at historic rates as well. But all that's gone out of the next kind of, somehow we've got to be kind of maximizing the returns for the council or kind of the landlord. Unearned gains is one of my kind of pet dislikes.
We're not going to go into that.
No.
We're not going to go into that.
And yours too, I guess.
Absolutely.
And yours, Stan?
Have you got that newspaper, Paulie?
Oh,
The
well.
recorder.
Pauline came we was in the coffee shop with you,
Yeah.
actually came up with an excellent piece. You just got to have a look at it. They're talking about building in Canningtown on Barking Road.
Why don't you let Pauline, go on, Pauline.
Will you have a read? Would you read it?
Okay,
Yeah.
well, here's the picture. Where do I show it?
In front of the
Anyway,
camera.
This one.
Oh, there.
This one.
There.
This one.
Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
Here's the picture. Canningtown, they're going to pull down all these little shops and the homes above them. They haven't said whether they're social rent or what.
Mm.
And they're going to provide 16 new houses. And they're all going to be on the private market. Not one of them affordable. 16 new homes. And councillors have said, you know, who are you building these for? Not for local people. No. But they were ignored. The developer more or less said, well, we're hoping professionals will buy them. You know. So, you know, you're back to the thing, cranes all over Newham. But this is what people have said to us in the market. Cranes all over Newham, and the housing list is getting longer. Cranes for building homes and flats, but the housing list is going up and up because they're not for us. But people are aware of that.
Yeah.
And I think that the worm may turn. And I don't know what's going to happen to land values and the property market anyway with that maniac across the pond in the driving seat. It might all crash. We might see unfinished buildings.
You have to say the maniac's
all over the
name,
show.
Pauline, in case people don't know.
No, I'm scared of a drone coming through the ceiling.
But the thing is, we've had issues, right, where Olympics sites have been developed in other countries and virtually left the country bankrupt. So these sort of vanity projects don't sort of work well.
But aren't we in debt with the London Olympics? I thought we were still in debt.
We are in debt, and that's why they want.
When you say we, the council.
Yes.
Well, it's all taxpayers' money.
On your behalf.
It's all taxpayers' money.
Well, you know, and the thing is, they keep hiding that from people.
Look, there's kind of a bigger kind of underlying kind of issue there. Councils having their kind of incomes cut by the central state. But what you've got is they started to be entrepreneurial. They bought shopping centres, they bought office blocks. They've all gone south and they've gone bust.
Right. We've got 1 minute. I want 1 minute. Right, 2 minutes. I want. Right. Explain when it is. I took these down. Your future vision for this site. It meant our future vision. These are the languages I was picking out. Continue to work with the community to shape our future proposal.
I thought these were your statements.
These are out of, the options? The
the council
1 and 2.
document.
Out of the council document. This is offered it. Modernise and redevelop. What you told us. These are in the council's option 1, option 2. If you read it, it's all in there. This is like saying we are going on this expedition. We are going on an adventure.
How could you be against modernisation? Well, modernised consultation, perhaps, right?
Maybe that's a start. Maybe that is a start. Modernise our consultation process that actually really work and that engage with the local people.
These kind of vacuous kind of statements end up kind of making people even more cynical than they are when they first hear them.
People, we're done. Thanks very much. Thank you to all our listeners and viewers across social media. Remember to like, comment and subscribe on our YouTube page, Revive FM UK. Have a great day. Or great
And Facebook.
Until next time, this has been your host, San. Keep it locked into Revive FM 94.0. Thank you very much to my panel and hope we meet again.